Hello and welcome to this video on how to troubleshoot weeknights, to take bad weeknights and make them be good weeknights. This is part 5 of our actually 5-part series on how to get good weeknights. I'm Karen Locke-Culp. I'm the host of the We Turned Out Okay podcast. It is now 236 episodes and counting. I'm a parent coach also and a child development expert, and I help families all the time who are trying to make their lives better with their kids, have a better time, make those hours with kids be better. And that's what we're doing today, specifically talking about weeknights and what to do. This last part of the series is about what to do when they go wrong. So you have done everything else that you possibly can to make this weeknight go right. You've listened to episodes 1 through 4. You've watched the videos on how to what to do when you cannot handle another weeknight, for example, on why weeknights are so tough in the first place with kids, on the 3 things that you can do to get weeknights started off right. Like you've checked off all of these things, and you're like, you went into tonight going, okay, this one's going to be better, and then something terrible happens. One kid hits another kid. You drop dinner all over the floor, or somebody else drops dinner all over the floor. You get into an argument. Like there are so many ways that weeknights can be derailed, and largely this has to do with, like, we've got all these check boxes that we want to check off, right? We want to be able to say we've made dinner, we've cleaned it up, we've given them baths, we've got a good bedtime routine, and in so many places this can really break down. And that's what today we're trying to figure out is when things go sideways, what do we do now to not have this weeknight be completely and utterly derailed? And I've got basically 3 ways that I think of that are really helpful. 2 are in the moment, and 1 is more of a kind of mindset. Maybe not. Yeah, I'll say mindset for now, and then we'll keep going with it. You can tell me at the end if you think I was right or wrong about it being a mindset. But the first 2 are basic, simple things you can either do or tell yourself. The first one is, when something goes wrong, when dinner is ruined, when you've got your 16th meltdown and you just don't know, you don't know what to do about it. You're feeling like you just can't do it anymore. To tell yourself, I guess, this is not an emergency. Now, I will say, if it's an actual emergency, then you need to say to yourself, okay, I'm recognizing that this is an emergency. What do we do with emergencies? And try and figure out how to alleviate that, like what you can do differently when you recognize this is an emergency. And in the podcast episode for the corresponding for the We Turned Out Okay corresponding podcast episode for today's video, I share a story about one time when I did have a genuine emergency. It was actually a weekday, not a weeknight, but my little guy, he'll very soon be 18. So this was 17-ish years ago, 16 and 3/4 years ago. We were out visiting with friends and taking a walk, and he had a piece of apple, and unbeknownst to me, he had an allergic reaction to the apple. And as we were on our way home, his face started to swell up. And I talk a lot about, share about what I did in that story. But the reason I bring it up is because, and he's fine, by the way, he's 18, he's almost 18. We did live through that emergency. And, but you can hear the whole story at weturnedoutokay.com/236 if you want. I recognized that was an emergency, and there are going to be times in your life where you have genuine, bona fide, real emergencies, and you'll recognize that. I know you will, and you'll do what you need to do, which most likely is going to be call 911, get some help, figure out how to stop the bleeding, or whatever it is. And when it is not an emergency, but when it's something upsetting or urgent or just a killer for you in these weeknights, then to say to yourself, this is not an emergency, can be a very calming idea. It's just a thing to keep in mind. You can even translate it to a question if you want. You can ask yourself, is this an emergency? And 99 times out of 100, it will not be an emergency. And so you'll proceed accordingly. When it is an emergency, you'll also proceed accordingly. So that's step one. Step two is to recognize, basically stopping and pulling yourself out of the situation for a moment, taking a deep breath, going into another room. If you need to if you have a very young child, you need to put them safely somewhere, put them in a playpen, strap them into the car. I mean, do something so that, put them in a high chair, something so that you know they're safe and you can go settle yourself down, which you can do with some nice deep breaths, deep, slow breathing. I'm a former yoga instructor and I still use that training today. And maybe a cool cloth to the forehead or around your neck, something so that you, having recognized that this is not an emergency, now you can settle yourself down, take yourself out of this weeknight if you can, even just for a moment. Just go to the bathroom, you know what I mean? Have something like a drink of water, have something that will settle you down is really what you're going for here. Because then when you step back in, you're in a better frame of mind. And, when we are in a better frame of mind, that's always, always better. So yesterday, here's a moment that, I lost it a little bit yesterday and how my child helped me get it back. I started a new YouTube channel yesterday. I'm launching today a podcast called More Than Just a School. It is an exploration of this particularly interesting model of secondary level education. It's called the North Star model. My sons are both in a learning center that is a North Star model school. And I've noticed incredible just gains in not just their academics, but their well-being and their like self-confidence and their competence and their joy. I mean, like so many things. And so I'm launching this podcast today about that. I'm launching it. It's a soft launch on YouTube today. But anyway, yesterday I'm setting up a channel so that I could do that. Right. And what I discovered is that I had two channels that were both linked to the same email address. And I couldn't get back to this channel after that. It literally looked like the We Turned Out Okay section of Karen Lockhope had disappeared. And I freaked out. I absolutely freaked out. I was crying. I was like so upset. And one of my kids kind of came up to me and he had this look of pure competence. Okay, give me the computer. Let me sit down. I will figure this out. And he sort of did. And then he showed me exactly how to switch back and forth between them. And he left me. And 30 seconds later, it happened again. And I was like, at this time, I didn't freak out quite as much, but I took a deep breath. I called to him and I said, can you please come and show me how you did that again? Because it's not working. And at that point, he figured out how to make it work. And it worked for him in about 10 seconds. And this was at about 3:00 yesterday afternoon. And he says to me, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just really tired. Like I've been working at this all day. And he goes, maybe it's time for you to take a break. He wasn't laughing when he said, he was looking at me sincerely and fondly, but he wasn't laughing, right? Like I am now. He just said, I think you should take a break. I think you really need a break, Mom. And I had to laugh because it was so true. Like I had gotten myself all upset about this thing that I didn't need to be upset about. But in the moment, I forgot that. So I'm sharing that because I want you to know that, like, this stuff really works. If you can pull yourself out, if you can tell yourself this is not an emergency, there is a solution here. I will find it. If you can take some deep breaths, if you can be able to calm yourself, that's really, really important. And it will be important like all your life. It's still important to me. And so that's my little story for this episode of the We Turned Out Okay, weeknights guide. And the third, so those are the first two. Step away, tell yourself this is not an emergency, step away, take a deep breath. Those are the first two kind of steps. And then the third one is to remember something I've been thinking of as the secret sauce of parenting. And this is an idea that every time I think on it makes more and more sense to me. In fact, so much so that I am writing an entire book on it. I've got a book coming out in October called Your Child Explained, Volume 1, and it's for you if you've got young children, kids who are not hitting adolescence yet, so say 9, 10, and under. And one of the big themes in it is this idea of a secret sauce. And I have to shout out to one of our Ninja Parenting community members named Jen, because she is the person who I had written it into a chapter of the draft, and she was like, "Ooh, I really want to hear more about this secret sauce." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like it took her. So thank you so much, Jen, if you're watching. It took another person to say like, "Hey, this is something to pursue here," and it's turned out to be a fairly big theme in the book. So the secret sauce of happy parenting is, so there's this idea in Italian cooking that you've got a secret sauce. Well, it's not even all that secret. There's the holy trinity, right, of celery, onions, and carrots. And those, in order to make almost any dish in Italian cooking, you start with those three ingredients. Any savory dish, any sauce, any soup, any meat dish always starts with those, right? Carrots, celery, and onions. And then the other thing is there's a fourth underlying one, which is you need cooking fat, you need butter, you need oil, you need something so that the vegetables don't stick and burn, right? And so I've been thinking of that element, the underlying element that makes everything else work. That's communication. And having open lines of communication with your child, that's the butter, if you think about it that way. And then the holy trinity is, which I'm not even a particularly religious person, but it's always been kind of a joke to me that like, it's been sort of a cute little saying that onions, carrots, and celery are the holy trinity of Italian cooking. And it is traditionally quite a Catholic Christian, the Vatican is located in Italy. I mean, this is, there's good reasons for calling it the Holy Trinity. Anyway, the three main ingredients in the secret sauce that you add to the underlying ingredient of communication are empathy is one. So in other words, being able to put yourself in your child's shoes and see how they may be taking your words and actions if this weeknight has gone off the rails. Trust, so the idea of building trust so that your child can say to you if something's wrong, if something's worrying them, if they trust you to not lose it during one of these bad weeknight episodes, right? And then boundaries, having good, strong boundaries that make sense. And I don't want you to worry about I don't want you to worry about those things right now. There's going to be more coming on them. But that's basically the secret sauce. I want you to sort of think about like setting that to simmer in the background at all times. You're always trying to keep open lines of communication so that you can foster trust, empathy, and an understanding of good boundaries. And so the example that I would use for good boundaries is it's a very bad boundary if one night your child runs down the hall and you make them feel so in trouble and you send them to their room and you yell at them. And then the next night you say, "Oh, sure, go ahead and run up and down the hall. I don't care." Like your child doesn't understand what the deal is, why one night it was such a problem and the next night it's not a problem at all. And that's very, very frightening for kids. So the idea of having good boundaries is making them consistent so that every night there's a happy medium there where like it's really not okay to run, but you're not going to scream and yell at them. You're going to do something else about it. You're going to say to them in the same tone every night, "Listen, you can't run in the halls. If you want to run, go outside," right? Like, so something that that makes sense, but that isn't soul crushing for them, and that isn't soul crushing one night and then the next night is like nothing at all, approved even or whatever. That when we move kids' boundaries like that, that's very, very scary for them. So so those are the three steps. They are, again, telling yourself this is not an emergency unless it actually is, right? Taking some deep breaths, stepping away for a moment to resettle yourself if the weeknight is going bad, and then always remembering the secret sauce of happy parenting, which is good open lines of communication, trust, empathy, and good boundaries that are consistent and don't move. If you can remember those three things, you're going to have a system to troubleshoot when things go wrong during weeknights, and honestly at any other time, but since we're focusing on weeknights right now, that's what we're talking about. So I've got an entire concise but really thorough roadmap to good weeknights for kids. It's available at WeTurnedOutOK.com/weeknights. I'm going to link to it right in the notes here below this video. And it's something that if you want a quick, like a checklist that has 6 points on it, you can start implementing these things right away. A 10-minute video, a really quick video that helps you really thoroughly understand all of these things that you need to do to make tonight a great weeknight. Because when I give a free guide, I want it to be something that you can put into use immediately. So like if last night was a crappy weeknight, tonight can be a great weeknight just by getting this guide at WeTurnedOutOK.com/weeknights. And I just want to say thank you for being here for this video, and also checking out the other videos in this series. There's actually now 5 videos, and they are located at WeTurnedOutOK.com/weeknights series. But before you go there, go to the other one and get the concise guide. So this has quite a few resources in it. You know, there's probably hours of resources in the weeknight series. But if you go to WeTurnedOutOK.com/weeknights, that as part of this guide, once you get the video and the checklist, automatically what comes into your inbox next, a day or so later, is the whole weeknight series, so that you can get a quick burst of like, this is what's going to help me tonight. That's the first part of this. And then after that, you'll get another email that has a link to the entire series, so that you can take it step by step and really get it. It's almost like a mini course, honestly, about how to have better weeknights, how to have good weeknights. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. And also, I'd be really honored and thrilled if you would share it with your friends, so that they can also have really good weeknights. And be sure to subscribe, so that in videos like this come right into your inbox. I've been working hard to do videos every single week on giving you different ways to have a good relationship with your child. But it really isn't so much about, I mean, that's a nice byproduct, but really what it is to enjoy the time that you spend with your kids. So often parents get bogged down in the things that are tough and a struggle in parenting. And my whole jam is to help you turn your child's behavior from bad to good, feel happy inside yourself, and to truly enjoy family time. So if that all sounds good, subscribe, and then you'll get these videos whenever they come through. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.